Last week, we gave you sleepers for Dynasty rookie drafts, and you guys said we want deep sleepers. We know these guys. So we are giving you deep sleepers for those Dynasty rookie drafts today. 2 players each, guys that we are in love with that are probably going in the second, third, maybe 4th round, depending on your drafts.
Yes.
I'll start first. My favorite deep sleeper this year is Sky Moore, wide receiver out of Western Michigan. Fun fact, he actually never played wide receiver in high school. He played quarterback and cornerback, and he was scouted to play cornerback at Western Michigan. But when he rocked up, they were like, we could utilize this guy on the offensive side of the field.
Right.
Broke out in 2021, 95 receptions, just under 1,300 yards to the air, and 10 tutties. Absolutely proved that he can handle a workload in college.
Yeah.
Dominator rating of 44.8%. That is the total percentage that he contributed to his team's offense through the air. As of right now, he's projected to be a 4th round pick in the real NFL draft. I think throughout the combine in the pre-draft process, I really do believe that he could end up being a late 2nd rounder. Okay. A lot of NFL teams are looking for a guy like Sky Moore, what he can bring to an NFL offense.
Yeah. Okay.
If we talk about what his attributes are, he really reminded me of 2 players in particular in the NFL. And I think some of you guys might not remember the first player. He was a Kansas City Chief. His name was Dexter McCluster. As an athlete, I see Dexter McCluster when I watch Sky Moore's film. But how he could be utilized in the NFL reminds me of Tyler Lockett. I think he could be utilized in the slot the same way that Tyler Lockett is. Tyler Lockett is a massive mismatch, on the field. He was never and is never going to be an alpha X wide receiver, but he's a massive X factor for a quarterback that a defense has to continually look at. He can be a mismatch on linebackers, on the slot cornerbacks. Sky Moore, 4.3 40 type speed. I really think we're going to see a 40 time from him at the combine in the 4.3s.
Sheesh. Okay.
Quick feet,
that's fast.
Shifting in the open field, great hands, really, really good hands. Like, he looks so undersized, but he catches. Some of the catches are very, very impressive. Go look at the film. A very good route runner, and this is important, who is continually improving in that area. Friendly reminder, he didn't play wide receiver in high school. He's continually got better and better. And I think the only reason he's not higher on people's boards is because he went to Western Michigan.
Right.
So as of right now, I do think he's a 3rd, 4th round pick in rookie dynasty drafts. For me, I think he should be at the end of the 2nd. I think he should be. I think in our most recent mock, you took him at the 212.
Yeah, I did.
And we had him projected to go to the Bills. That's where I love him going, is to the Buffalo Bills as well. Cole Beasley only has 1 year left on his contract.
Get him out.
I could see Sky slowly taking over that slot position in the second half of the year, right? Cole's kind of showing him the ropes, showing him the ways.
Exactly.
And then eventually we see Sky Moore step in. The thing is, there isn't a Buffalo Bill that can do what Sky Moore can do. I'm not saying he's going to be the best player on their team, but he adds a brand new weapon, a brand new type of wrinkle for Josh Allen. I would really love to see him on the Bills. Other teams I think could be great would be the Chargers, Falcons. Small guy, go watch his film. You will fall in love. And not just the highlights. Go watch his individual games.
Yeah.
You will see what he can do for an NFL team. You might have to be patient for him to produce, okay? He might not produce straight away. It's probably going to take a little while. But if he comes into training camps and just,
goes crazy,
impresses everyone, then he could be a day 1 starter. It just depends on what the team's slot role looks like when he lands there. I love Sky Moore. If you watch his film, I believe you will fall in love with him too. I want to take him at the end of the 2nd in every rookie draft. So, Badake, who is your first deep sleeper?
Ooh, my first deep sleeper is James Cook. And if the name sounds familiar, it's because it is. This is Dalvin Cook's little brother. And, I was going back and forth. I was like, maybe I shouldn't do James Cook because I think his name is just going to keep getting popped up purely because of Dalvin.
Right.
Okay.
The connections.
Exactly.
It's who you know.
Exactly. So obviously some background. He went to Georgia, started in 2018. He didn't have the best dominating rating. He was technically a spellback, a backup, a guy that could just contribute in the air. Yeah, he shared the workload. Let me tell you why though. In 2018 when he came, who was at Georgia? DeAndre Swift. He was there until 2019. And then they got Zamir White, which was a 5-star recruit out of high school. He did tear his ACL twice, But I mean, who are you starting, the 4-star recruit or the 5-star recruit?
Right.
You're starting the 5-star recruit. And that's where James Cook kind of automatically became that backup role. So he didn't actually get the extreme workload. But when you watch him, I think you see the attributes of Dalvin. So for me, obviously, James, I think he can probably go in the 3rd, 4th round. He's going to be sneaking up into the 2nd round, I think, in some drafts, depending on how fast your running backs are going in your rookie drafts.
Okay.
But once again, I think the attributes of his big brother is there. I think he could be he can't be Dalvin. He won't be better than Dalvin. He can't be Dalvin. You can see how they were in the backyard and Dalvin was like, yo, this is what you can do better. Yo,
let me show you this.
Yeah, this is what I do. Maybe when you're doing this, maybe when you're cutting, do something. I don't know what he would have said, but when you watch the film and when you watch what James Cook can do, you can see how Dalvin was teaching him, which is good, because Dalvin is a top 5 running back, especially in fantasy football, and that's what you want. You want a guy that can be that way. And I think of James Cook as an Austin Eckler, not the workload that he's going to get, but how he started. Austin Eckler came in. He was a good talent. There's a guy that can do everything. He's a good complementary back. But then once he gets the opportunity, it's all about the opportunity. Austin Eckler, another guy that became a top 5 running back. And maybe that doesn't happen in his 1st or 2nd year, but that's what James Cook can do.
And I just want to say something that quickly. By the way, no one suspected that Austin Eckler could be the workhorse back until he got the opportunity.
No.
Like I project James Cook as a 3rd, like a James White type role, but at the same time, I get it. I see the skill set that he has, and I do think it is a possibility. You just need the opportunity for that to happen. We're not saying any of these guys are home runs, but the talent is there. Yeah,
exactly. So obviously he's probably going to go, in my opinion, in the 2nd, 3rd round in actual drafts, but in rookie drafts, he goes in 3rd and 4th round. Look, teams that he can kind of go to, teams that he can go to, I think it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Get rid of Rojo, get rid of Lenny Fournette, let them have a new opportunity somewhere. Keep Keyshawn Vaughn. And then I think James Cook, even though he didn't get the workload in college, I think he can handle it. I think he can be a 3-down back, a 1st and 2nd down back. And then if at times you can bring in Keyshawn Vaughn. Let's not forget this offensive line is a top 2 offensive line. According to PFF, they're ranked 2nd. They will, so he's going to have the opportunity. And it doesn't matter who it is, whether they trade for Russ, whether they get Aaron Rodgers, whoever comes to Tampa as quarterback, I think he can still get the workload purely because of the offensive line. So look, in my opinion, I love James Cook. I think he can produce as soon as possible if he gets the right opportunity. And just go watch him, please. Go watch him.
I think so in our rankings, I think you're significantly higher on Cook. This is one of your guys. Like I said, I project him as like a 3rd down back, like an elite 3rd down back, like a James White. But still, I can see the validity in what you're saying, and he could turn into one of those guys who ends up being a steal. That's why we're bringing him as a deep sleeper.
Deep sleeper, exactly.
All right, my last deep sleeper for you, and we can do more of these if you guys like him. Okay, we have more sleepers that we like. But my last for today is Rachaad White, running back out of Arizona State. He is probably the most intriguing prospect in the 2022 NFL draft for me. Non-quarterback prospect. I think he's the most intriguing, it just piques my interest because I really think he could be utilized in some very creative ways in the NFL.
Yeah.
In 2021, he rushed for over 1,000 yards on 5.5 per carry, 15 touchdowns on the ground, and then through the air, 43 receptions, 456 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown, had a dominator rating of 37.8%. That is the total percentage that he accounted for of his team's total offense, if that makes sense. Now, he's 6'2", but he's a running back.
Right.
6'2" running back who runs like a wide receiver.
It's so weird sometimes when you watch it on tape, but like when you see him, it's like, oh my gosh. He's actually good.
I wanted to be against the hype because I've heard his name around the Twitter sphere, and I wanted to watch his film and say, nah, I'm out. But after watching his film, he's special. There is something special here that could happen. Now, again, a lot of these guys are just going to be role players, but based off of their talent and what we saw them do in college, that's why we're bringing them to you here today. In the real NFL draft, I think he's going to go around the 4th round. He's probably going to be a 4th, 5th round pick, but I think he could go as high as a 3rd.
Okay.
And when I talk about him being utilized in some very creative ways, I think what we saw last year in Atlanta really piqued a lot of GM's interests, okay? The way Cordero Patterson was used. He was used as that running back wide receiver combo. I think that turned a lot of GM's heads. Right. And they thought, okay, let's start to look at some of these in-between prospects a little bit differently. How could we continually, make an offense update it and bring new wrinkles? And I think Rachaad White can be used in that running back wide receiver hybrid role the same way that Cordero Patterson was. Okay, it has good enough vision, burst, and awareness to play in the backfield, and has good enough hands, route running, and speed to line up at wide receiver. Cordero and Debo started to pave the way for guys like Rachaad.
They have.
This is a running back who probably would be drafted way later because there is a lot of unknowns, but people can now start to see we might be able to utilize this guy in some pretty creative ways. And I'm not saying he's Debo. There's probably no one who's Debo in this draft, but I'm trying to explain how he could be utilized in the NFL.
His upside. His upside could be a Debo, and maybe of what Cordero Patterson did this past year. I can definitely see it.
Yeah, in rookie mocks, in rookie drafts, I expect him to go mid to late third round. He could slip into the second, depending on where he goes in the real NFL draft. But this is a guy who, if you have it at the 302, 301, you might be able to grab a guy like Rachaad White. It might take a while for him to really produce in the NFL. Right. So for me, I almost view him as a taxi guy in year one. So when I place on my taxi squad, I believe in the talent. A role could develop for him, but it might not happen straight away. My favorite team fit for him, the Chicago Bears. And I know that they have Khalil Herbert,
right?
But they could easily move him to their RB3 role, okay? Khalil Herbert doesn't offer you what Rachaad White could, okay? Let David Montgomery and Rachaad White own this backfield. Utilize Rachaad as a running back wide receiver combo, the same way that Atlanta did for Cordero. And then I'm not comparing David Montgomery to Mike Davis, but have Mike Davis play or have Montgomery play the Mike Davis role where he's that 1 to 2, bust you in the mouth type player. Give Justin Fields a weapon. He needs more weapons. As good as Khalil Herbert is as a runner, he can't offer Justin Fields what Rachaad White can. So I really, really like this prospect. Interesting guy. I wanted to be against him, but I'm not. Badake, who's your last deep sleeper?
My last deep sleeper for today is Khalil Shakir. Exactly. Shakira out of Boise State. He's 6 foot, 190 pounds, 22 years old. And he produced. He had a 40.8 dominant rating. Obviously, that goes for his total offense. 77 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Watch this guy. He is fast. He's electric. He's a do-it-all player. When I watched him, he was one of the guys that just fell in our scouting list. He's like, oh, all right, let's just watch him. Let's just see what happens. Yeah. And I watched him. I was like, bro, this guy, this is the guy. This is the guy that I want on my team, on my fantasy team, because he can bring that to you. So let's talk about, obviously, his NFL draft capital. I think he can definitely go. I think he will definitely slip, in my personal opinion, in the 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th rounds. But he's going to be a guy that can really surprise us and can really be someone that can help produce on your team. And a guy that I saw when I was watching his film, and I saw a lot of comps of this, was Nate Burleson, a guy that was a wide receiver too, a complimentary wide receiver to all these big names, Calvin Johnson, Randy Moss. These were the teams that Nate Burleson was on and was complimenting these big X wide receivers, these guys that were getting the workload. And I see that, and I really like that from Shakir. In your rookie drafts, I see him going in the 3rd round. I took him, if I'm not mistaken, in the 3rd round if I'm a rookie mock draft that we did. Yeah, and I felt comfortable there. I think it's a good high upside player. This is definitely a guy, like Zach said about Rachaad White. He's the guy that you're going to be staying on your taxi squad. You're going to let him sit. You're going to see where he's going to go, see where he's going to fit onto this offense, whichever offense he's going to go to, and then you see, I can see his role progressing each year. And obviously, I personally believe he could produce right now. And then my best team fit, which this could be a little bit biased, is my New York Football Giants. And you have and this is what I'm saying. I compared him to Nate Burleson. Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson. Not that Kenny G is Randy Moss and Calvin Johnson, but he's that X wide receiver. You have Kadarius Toney in the slot, then you have Khalil Shakir on the other side of Kenny G.
That's a Y guy.
Yeah, exactly. You know, obviously Sterling. I think we get rid of Sterling Shepard. We get rid of Darius Slayton. These guys couldn't produce. Well, Sterling keeps getting hurt, and Slayton just couldn't produce. So maybe this guy can be that other guy. He's once again fast, twitchy. He can also go anywhere on the field. Why don't you want that on your team? You want a guy. When we look at fantasy teams, you want a guy that can produce PPR guys, if you, especially in the PPR league. So I love Khalil Shakir. I think you guys should go watch his tape. It's absolutely fantastic. And I'm really, really excited about him.
Yeah. So Khalil doesn't have elite speed. Well, we can't just throw that out there. And I'm not saying you did, but a lot of people are. But I do think he's right under that elite category.
Right.
And what stood out to me is it's hard to find someone 6 foot and over
That's
who is right under that category.
Exactly.
Who you're not worried about the size and the frame. Now, he's not the biggest guy, but still, he's such an interesting prospect. I really, really like this pick. Those are our deep sleepers. Look, we have more. So if you guys want more deep sleepers, we can bring them. Let us know.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos.
Watch
now,
it.
You can also subscribe.
Right now.
If you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/fantasylandfam.